Hello there, everybody. Dave D here. Glad to have you with me today. Welcome to the first in our new series of the Inner Game of Success series. I'm very excited about this. What I've done is I've created a 12 module production. There are going to be 12 different modules in this, and we'll be going through one module a month. I would like you to use these strategies, practice them for the entire month because there are going to be specific things for you to do. And at the end, you're going to have a really great system for the inner game of success. So we talk a lot about techniques and strategies and marketing and selling to increase our profits. But here is the truth. Until we have our inner game, what's going on inside our head working at its optimum, then we are going to struggle to break through to the next level that we want to break through. My guess is that most of you watching this have a business. The business is going pretty well, but you want more. And if you're like me, what you do is you go look for more techniques or more strategies. But if you keep running up against a wall and you can't figure out how to break through that wall to get to the other side to where you want to be, the truth is it's probably not the strategies. It's probably not, you don't need a new sales technique or a new marketing technique. What we need are strategies for up here. So I'm going to be sharing with you the things that work for me. As with anything like this, take what works for you and leave the rest behind. But I do ask you to give the techniques and the strategies in this Inner Game of Success series your best shot. So before you dismiss them, actually use them and see if they're effective. If they're effective for you, keep them. If they're not effective for you, don't keep them. Okay, so we're going to get started here, and let me just tell you a little bit about what this series is based on. And it's really based upon three major areas. The first is neuro linguistic programming, also known as NLP. NLP was founded by two guys, a guy by the name of Richard Bandler and then John Grinder. And so what does NLP actually mean other than neurolinguistic programming? The first thing is it's using our brains. That's the neuro. Our brains use language. Okay, that's the linguistic, and it forms patterns. And those patterns, that's the programming. So those patterns, what they do is they create meaning inside of us, and that meaning creates emotion inside of us. So we're going to be using some strategies from neurolinguistic programming to help adjust what's going on in our minds, which will then, of course, have an impact on what's going on in the world. So in our world, the next thing is we're going to be using some strategies from hypnosis. I've been studying this for many years, and I'm not talking about stage hypnosis where you make you run around like a chicken or something like that. What we're talking about here is really how to program our mind. And so we're going to be taking some techniques and strategies and language patterns from that as well. And then the final piece to this is from Psycho-Cybernetics. If you have not read that book by Maxwell Maltz, you should read it. There's many different variations on that book. There's many different editions. The first edition is excellent. And so we're going to be taking some strategies from that as well. They say that Psycho-Cybernetics is really the foundation of all of the personal development stuff that's out in the world today. So, what are my goals for you in this program? The first goal is for you to, as best you can, master your emotions. Now, let's be very clear about this. That there are going to be some things that happen in your life that are going to cause negative emotions, right? And I'm not saying by using these strategies you'll never going to experience a negative emotion again. That's not what we're talking about here. Like you, I struggle with these things all of the time. These are strategies that are going to help you with that. The next goal that I have for you is to give you more mental clarity. So Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich talks about really having really focus and clarity on what the issue is and on what we want to achieve. There are so many things which we are bombarded with on a daily basis that uh, that we don't have a lot of clarity. So clarity of thought is really important. The more clear I become and laser focused on what I want, not only what I want in the physical world, but what I want to experience internally, the closer I can, the easier it is for me to achieve that. When I have a cloudy vision of what I want, then it's very, very difficult to create a plan to reach there. So I literally spent, just for an example, uh, 2 hours earlier this week, first thing in the morning, after I did my morning ritual. I did 2 hours of writing down a vision for where I want my business to go and what I want it to look like in great, great detail. And it's amazing the things that have already started to happen because of that. Now, I don't want to get all metaphysical on you, but I do believe that when you become very clear on what you desire and you focus on that and you start taking action towards its achievement, God, I call it God, you can call it the universe, whatever you want, puts things in your path, or at least the reticular activating system inside your brain allows you to see things that you might not have seen before. So, just as an example of what I'm talking about, I wrote down my vision about exactly what I want. I was contacted by a newsletter which has thousands and thousands and thousands of subscribers asking me, and I haven't written for this newsletter in years, asking me to write an article about um, the exact thing that my vision was for. I mean, it was really, really, really weird. And they said, hey, you can plug yourself in it as well. So make sure you put in, where people can contact you about it. So just really crazy stuff. So clarity of thought. The next thing is relieving stress. So a lot of the strategies that we're going to talk about are going to be excellent for relieving stress. As an entrepreneur, we know that stress is part of the game, but how can we reduce that stress? Next is increase your productivity. When we are focused, when we can control what's going on inside here, we become more productive. We get more important things done. The next thing, that the final goal here is to put you into more of a flow state. Okay, put you into more of a flow state. So, what is a flow state? A flow state is where everything is just moving very, very smoothly, and you're not struggling. And so there was a great book called Flow where the author talks about this. And it's such a great place to be in. And when you are in that space, time just goes by very, very quickly and you get things done without that heavy stress. So those are the goals that I have for you for this particular program. Okay, so let's get into this part one. That was the overview. So let's talk about the first technique, the first strategy that we're going to use here. And this is how to change negative emotions into either neutral states or empowering states. Sometimes, depending upon the size of the emotion or the intensity of the emotion, you're not going to instantly go from feeling negative about it to feeling empowered. But can we neutralize it to take us to the next level? So the first strategy that I want to share with you is something really simple, and it came from the book Psycho-Cybernetics 2000, which was one of the editions of Psycho-Cybernetics. And the author in that book, I believe her name is Bobby Summer, had a strategy, and it just, man, I've been using it for years. And the first thing is when you notice yourself having negative thoughts, right? So as human beings, we can think about what we're thinking about, which is a really cool thing. But when we notice that we're running a negative pattern of thought in our head, I want you to literally say the word out loud, the word cancel. I Now this sounds weird, I know, and a lot of this stuff is going to seem pretty weird, but it works. So you literally, when you notice that, say out loud the word cancel, right? You're canceling that thought. What you're really doing is you're breaking the pattern that you have going on in your mind, right? And so by saying cancel, so cancel, right? It immediately breaks a pattern and it stops you, at least temporarily, from thinking about that thought. So this cancel technique, try it today. The next time something negative comes in your mind, the minute you notice it, say the word cancel and say it out loud, all right? And you'll notice that it breaks the pattern that your brain is having. Now, what can we do beyond that? So, if it's something really, really powerful, where just like the simple cancel is not actually going to cancel it out, here is one strategy that you can use. And what I want you to do is, instead of just taking notes and watching this, I'd like you to actually experience it. All right? So, to get started, I'd like everyone just to take a deep breath in, hold it, and then release it. Fantastic. Great. Hold it. Take another deep breath in. Hold it. And then release it. Dynamite. Now, what I want you to do is just shut your eyes, and I want you to think of a slightly negative or slightly embarrassing memory, something that happened in the past, not something dramatic, not for this exercise, right? Just something slightly negative or something slightly embarrassing. So just think about that, okay? Great. Now, what I want you to do with your eyes shut is to run that scene in your mind like a movie. So just run the scene in your mind, the embarrassing or slightly negative memory that you have. Just run it in your mind like a movie. See it like it's in a movie, right? Just do it. Run it from beginning and run it to end, as slow or as fast as you want, and experience it. Now, let me ask you, is the movie in color or is the movie in black or white? All right, so if the movie is in color, I want you to turn it to black and white. So turn the movie to black and white. Keep running it in your mind, but turn the movie to black and white. Now, is there sound in your movie? Can you hear things? If there is sound, what I want you to do is slow down the sound. So it's like womp, 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 right? Really slow it down. And then as it's slowing down, make the sound softer and softer and softer until it comes to you can't even hear it anymore. It just fades away. So now you should be seeing just a black and white movie in your mind with no sound. Now, slow down the movie so it gets slower and slower into slower and slower motion. And keep getting it slower and slower until it comes to a complete stop. Okay? Slower and slower until it comes to a complete stop. Next, imagine that this movie now has a picture frame around it. So now it's just a still frame. And imagine now this picture, black and white, shrinking, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Shrink it down in your mind until it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, tinier and tinier, until you can almost not even see it. And then see that tiny picture either pop away or slowly and completely fade away into the horizon. Okay, now open your eyes. If you've done that and you actually followed through on this, how do you feel now when you think about that memory? What most people find is that memory doesn't have that same impact, or it has less of an impact than it did. Now, by the way, if you still feel the really negative emotions surrounding this, What you need to do is very simple. You need to just do it again. So what's happening here is we're working with the not the actual content of the thought, right? Not what the actual thought is, but what are called the submodalities of the thought. And so by shrinking it, so not saying, hey, I'm having this negative thought because of this, we're just dealing with the properties of the thought. So if you notice, what we did is we it was a movie, and then we took away the color. We stripped the color from the movie. Then we stripped the sound from the movie. And then we made the movie into a still picture. And then we made that still picture smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And what happens is when we do that, it directly affects the way that we feel. So, your assignment, if you choose to accept it, is to practice this strategy. Once again, practice this technique. What I would recommend, again, is that you start off small, with just small, tiny, embarrassing, or slightly negative things, just so you can train your brain to do this. What happens is when you continually do this and you continually train your brain, what will happen is your brain will automatically start doing this. Okay. And it's just a very, very powerful strategy. So today we went over two things. The first strategy was the cancel strategy. When you feel something negative, a negative thought, negative emotion, immediately say cancel. Then go and do this technique. Change the image in your mind. Play with it. For you, it may be different. Maybe adding sound to it, adding, like if it's a real negative memory, adding carnival music to it or something really strange to it. The idea is to manipulate what's going on in your brain, the features, the submodalities, the sound, the picture, the location. By moving it around inside of your own mind, you change the impact that it has on your emotional state. All right. So, if there are any questions, do me a favor and put your question into the chat. There should be a comment box that you see. Any questions, just put your questions into the chat. If not, we're going to process this, or Facebook is going to process this, so you can watch it again and do the exercise. Any questions from anybody, put it into the chat now. Okay, doesn't seem like we have any questions from anybody. And so we're going to end this video. It will be inside the Facebook group for you to view again. Thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you again next month with part 2 in our 12-part series about the inner game of success.